A few days ago, I finished reading Thomas Mann's Magic Mountain, and I wanted to share with you what I learned both about history and how Thomas Mann's book, published 100 years ago, somehow speaks to us today when we're feeling like we're going through changes not seen for 100 years, but also how to read a long, difficult novel like this and really get the most out of it. So that's what I'm sharing with you on the Burning Archive, because I was kind of surprised in a way, both what I learned about how to do this, but also how some of the themes of Thomas Mann's great novel, great work of literary modernism from 1924, how it spoke to many of the themes of the Burning Archive channel. And I've wanted to read Thomas Mann's book for over 30 years. It was first recommended to me by a psychotherapist who described it as his favourite work, and it does feature psychoanalysis. It's one of the early novels in which psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis, is featured. It's about a group of people who go to a sanatorium for tuberculosis in the Swiss mountains, the Magic Mountain, on the cusp of World War I, and is in a way a portrait of European society, European culture on the doom of those great changes, that great world crisis that really changed the world. And that's why perhaps it is so resonant today. But I had long struggled with the book. I actually took it with me. This copy, which you can see now, is really just falling apart. This old Penguin Classics copy, I took it with me to a sanatorium on a mountain over 30 years ago, on a sort of a weekend when I gave up smoking and started to read it there. But I sort of got stuck reading it on my own after only 200 pages or so, because it is, in a way, a book of ideas. There's lots of dialogues and all that sort of thing. So it can be a little bit difficult sometimes to really appreciate it and to get to the end of quite a long book all by yourself. But in this year, the centenary year of Thomas Mann's Magic Mountain, it occurred to me I really did want to read it, and it came back to me partly when I was doing my series on the Nobel Prize for Literature, during which I read a little bit of every single winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature since 1901. Thomas Mann won the Nobel Prize in 1929, and it really reactivated that wish to read The Magic Mountain. And then I learned that Olga Tokarczuk had just published her new book, The Empusium, which is a homage to The Magic Mountain, which I discussed a little bit earlier on in a video earlier this year. Those motivations pushed me on, the centenary of it pushed me on, the sense that this great work of modernism still speaks to us today. It pushed me on, but I still couldn't quite crack the somewhat intimidating length and character of the book. So what really helped me was discovering a sort of shared read-along program that was being run by Samantha Rose Hill. Now, there are a few of these shared reading programs online. In a way, they're like variations of a book group or a book club. People get together, discuss the book, and they have both a little bit of company and a little bit of accountability, or a little bit of support, perhaps, is even better, to read a complex and difficult work of fiction like Thomas Mann's Magic Mountain. And I found this experience really fantastic. And I'll at the end of the video, I'll just mention two real benefits of such slow reading programs. But what about the actual content of the book? What is it that I really learned, I guess, from history by reading? How did I learn from history by reading this book? And in what ways does it speak to us today? Well, I guess the symbol, the central symbol of the book, the magic mountain, is part of that. These group of characters, of the main character, Hans Castorp, go to the sanatorium near Davos in Switzerland, in the Swiss mountains, and there they seek treatment for their tuberculosis, but also their psychological problems. But in a way, they also escape into a sort of a bubble of culture, ideas, civilization. In a funny sort of way, they're also presented as a kind of a ship of fools who are sealed off in a magic mountain that's separated from the ordinary world, the world that we know and that the narrator constantly reminds us is about to enter into a world war. In a way, it's almost like a symbol of late 19th, early 20th century Western civilization, which has within it a whole lot of driving divisions. Mann finished writing his book. He published his book in 1924, and by 1924, Oswald Spengler's The Decline of the West, which was published in 1918, had very much framed this sort of discussion of was the West, by which Oswald Spengler largely meant Western Europe, was the West in civilizational decline. And in a way, the Magic Mountain presents this sort of sealed bubble of Western culture with a sense of doom as well as a sense of enchantment about it. And I guess that is part of the connection we have with it today. Do we also feel that we have drifted off into a sort of a sealed bubble of culture? We're a little bit disconnected, the sense that the West is in decline. And then there are these driving divisions within the story. Beneath the magic of the Magic Mountain, there are tensions that are evident. There is the illness that are threatening the characters who we meet on the Magic Mountain. But within that, there's also a whole question of what is illness and what is health. They are seeking treatment for tuberculosis, but at the same time, they seek treatment for their sense of weakness and malaise, their mental health issues through psychoanalysis at the sanatorium. There's a division between the civilian and the military, almost embodied in the two cousins, Hans Castorp and Joachim Ziemßen. There is a division between, if you like, liberalism and a strange merger of conservative, Catholic and communist or radical leftist authoritarianism, represented by the constant debates and arguments between two characters, Settembrini, who is the very much the embodiment of Italian liberal nationalist, late 19th century bourgeois intellectual, and NAFTA, who is a strange combination of Leninist, Marxist, and conservative Catholic respecter of traditions, almost somewhat apocalyptic vision of politics, and he is reputed, these two characters are reputedly based on both, in the Settembrini's case, the famous Italian politician, historian and philosopher Benedetto Croce, and in the case of NAFTA, the Hungarian literary critic and Marxist György Lukács. There is also a division between East and West, represented particularly in the tensions between Hans Castorp and his love interest Claudia Chauchat, who is a Russian with terms like Tatar physiognomy, and the whole division within European culture between what was perceived as truly Western and liberal and what was seen as exotic even within Europe, Russia, but even indeed the Slavic cultures of Eastern Europe. And this is an abiding theme within the book as well, which again gives you this sense of a kind of civilizational conflict almost that is evident in the book that's about to erupt in the battlefields of Europe. And of course, Claudia Chauchat also emphasises the fact that there is a big gender issue which is not so explicitly addressed but does come through very much, and of course which Olga Tokarczuk really reworks in her brilliant novel The Impusium. So these driving divisions, some of these are still with us, some of these debates are still with us, some of the tensions and caricatures of these debates are still with us. So it is something that really does still speak to us. But then this is the third big, connection to, that we've learnt from history in this book, which really still speaks to us about our circumstances today, which is this sense that there's a civilizational break, the sense of this culture, these people in the Magic Mountain about to experience a catastrophic war, World War I, which does make itself felt towards the end of the novel, without giving away any spoilers. And this sense that it's explicitly addressed right at the start of the book. If I just quickly read, it says, "Let us not intentionally obscure a clear state of affairs. The extraordinary pastness of our story results from its having taken place before a certain turning point on the far side of a rift that has cut deeply through our lives and consciousness. It takes place, or to avoid any present tense, whatever, it took place back then, long ago, in the old days of the world before the Great War, that is, World War I." And this feeling of, the world on a cusp of dramatic changes, not just in political events, not just in war, but in the consciousness, almost the character of modern life, a sense of a civilization that is about to end in World War I, with a new modern civilization beginning, is constantly there within the book, and I think connects with us. That people talk. Xi Jinping, president of China, has said we are experiencing changes which have not been seen for 100 years, exactly the time Thomas Mann was writing about. Indeed, some people say, Samantha Rose Hill, who did run the excellent shared reading program that I participated in, she does say that in some ways Magic Mountain brings to our attention that the dilemmas, the changes wrought by World War I were more significant to the modern world than perhaps World War II, even though we often hark back nowadays to the post-1945 world, the world after World War II. In many ways, this division after 1918 is perhaps as important. And it's certainly important in the sense of literary modernism. The 1920s is often seen as literary modernism's greatest decade. There is a sense in which a different kind of cultural consciousness is born in the wake of World War I. And this is constantly felt in The Magic Mountain, and it makes it's very connected to our own sense that there is almost a different sense of what the world is emerging out of the conflicts we're seeing today. Are we in the same boat as the characters in The Magic Mountain? Are we in a kind of Magic Mountain bubble of our own that is about to be threatened by some of those conflicts between liberalism and conservatism, between East and West, between genders, between illness and health, between civilian and military, between civilization and some sort of threat to civilization, or between a dying civilization and a more vital culture. A constant theme in The Magic Mountain, and one I think we can learn a lot from. Now, I also said that one of the great things that I really learnt from the process of reading The Magic Mountain through this slow reading program is just how to tackle a complex, difficult literary book like this, but that is still so rewarding. And I think there's really two pieces of advice I took from the slow reading programs, or even three pieces of advice. One is to take it slowly. There's a wonderful slow reading program out there by Simon Hassel, who reads War and Peace, one small 3 to 5 page chapter a day. Who just take it easy, take your time, don't be overwhelmed by the length of the book, and just take it slowly. And in the program I read, I think there was some really terrific advice, which was to read 20 pages a day. 20 pages a day is really quite, reasonable, comfortable. You can maybe do that if you're really fast, in 15 to 20 minutes, and you maybe more carefully take half an hour or even, if you like, an hour. It's quite a manageable amount of time. And you can read a 1,000-page novel, 20 pages a day in 50 days or 7 weeks. Or even take it a little bit more slowly than that if you wish. And then I also think it is a great thing to actually do it with someone else, even if it's just it's not physically present, if it's online through either Zoom calls, or even just having someone lead you through the book with giving you a few prompts and notes, just to help understand the context, just to have a bit of a reference point, to have someone even to ask some questions. I really think it is a wonderful way to sort of start to better appreciate, to reignite your wish to read excellent books of good literature and good history. And it so inspired me that I've actually decided on the Burning Archive through my Substack next year to run my own slow reading program, not of a classic like War and Peace or a modernist classic like The Magic Mountain, but a great contemporary living writer classic, Olga Tokarczuk, winner of the 2018 Nobel Prize for Literature, The Books of Jacob. Absolutely brilliant, but 1,000-page novel, but one that you can read in 7 weeks over by reading 20 pages a day. And my program is actually going to read Olga Tokarczuk's Books of Jacob, 1 chapter a week. There's sort of 32 chapters over 32 weeks through 2025, and I'll be giving you extra context. And if you join up my special membership program on the Substack, you can also participate in live calls and discussions about it as well. So why don't you join me and read both Olga Tokarczuk's The Books of Jacob and learn so much more about world history and how it's affecting our world today, so that you can live in tune with the changing world by joining me at jeffrich.substack.com. Thanks for watching.